Good morning, Luke.
Good morning, Paul.
Very nice to have you here in Romania with us.
Thank you very much.
On the occasion of the Process Excellence Summit that we just had the last couple of days, we had fabulous days of speeches, workshops, lectures from you, from other international speakers and consultants on all these topics of Lean and Six Sigma, quality improvement. Would you like to tell us a bit what do you actually do?
Right. Paul, as you know, we've known one another for years. More than 35 years I've spent as a consultant to industry in a wide range of industries right throughout the world, many different countries. And these days I confine my activities more to the training of people and helping people to get to grips with all of these things that we talk about. So what do? I work to help people to improve their performance in business.
Okay, using Lean and Six Sigma and some other techniques and methods and principles that are involved integrated into the systems. What's this all about, Lean
What's it all about?
Six Sigma?
You know, I've seen it come and go over the years. Many different systems that people have used and so on. Lean has its roots in Japan. A number of people were very impressed with what happened in Japanese industry in the 60s and the 70s and into the 80s. And I visited that country and they wrote books. And the pioneering work was done by Dr. Richard Schornberger. And later on, some years later, Dan Jones and a number of his associates wrote books as well. And one of them was Lean Thinking. And that's where the name Lean comes from. But essentially, it is all an analysis of what the Japanese people did in their industry to perfect quality, to streamline their businesses, and to really cut out waste in every form. That's really what they were doing. They used a number of novel techniques. They used a number of techniques that had been known before. In many ways, they perfected what they were taught by some Americans. Americans that went to Japan after the Second World War and helped to build up their industry. One of those people was Dr. Joseph Duran.
Yeah.
And he was a Romanian. So you can say Romania has had an impact on all of these things that we talk about.
So I'm glad Romania has made its contribution
Yes.
to the development programs.
Yeah.
So the world has learned from the Japanese, or has been learning from the Japanese. Is it also a cultural aspect?
Well, there's been debate about this for years and years. I know of Romanian businesses, and I've worked here in Romania, and I have the highest respect for work ethic that exists in the Romanian businesses with which I have been working over the years. And so, from a cultural point of view, I doubt very much. You will find excellent business performance from one country to another. It's not a cultural thing. It is an application of principles that are well known. It is a dedication to achieve results which are achievable.
Which is not depending on a certain type of culture or another.
Certainly not cultural. Certainly, in my view, it's dependent on attitude. Attitude of people, collective, collaborative attitude to get the job done.
So, in our activity as consultants and trainers, we get in contact with companies, talk to them about these programs and the development road and how this is going to help. And someone says, okay, so I want this. What do I need to do?
The correct approach is not a one-size-fits-all. You have to assess the situation for what it is. Analyze what the situation happens to be. Define very clearly where you want to be, and then use principles and techniques which will take you along the way progressively with a lot of hard work and effort in order to get progressively to a destination. You don't do it all at once. It is a journey, as has been said by many people, including in this summit.
Yes,
It is a journey which you experience as you're going along.
It is a continuous improvement.
Indeed.
Yes. And when you were talking about these initial assessments and then the projected implementation road for the assessment methods and for the principles and techniques that are going to be applied in the first phase, are they difficult to understand, to grasp for the people?
Well, even that in itself is an experience that the people have to go through with the consultants, with the trainers and so on. Is it very difficult? Nothing is beyond the capacity of anybody who's working in industry. You know, we deal and we grapple with difficult situations in business all the time. We have to use our brains all the time. And none of this stuff is beyond the thinking capacity of ordinary people. Simplicity, in fact, is one of the watchwords. It's not a matter of trying to be complicated, not at all. It's the opposite.
I have come to see that, I have come to hear about that, and actually after delivering the program, the initial introductory programs, people would say, but you know, Paul, it's a lot of common sense in here. It's not too much buzz about it. And why all those fancy names of techniques and methods?
The fancy names because they come from elsewhere and people haven't really bothered to change words like Muda and so on and so on. But it's not the fancy words. It's the basic principles which those fancy words describe. However, some of the features that we talk about are easy to understand, easy to implement, but they require dedication, they require discipline to sustain them. A typical example would be the 5 S's, the most simple concepts that you can imagine. And everybody says, oh, well, what's this all about? Well, keep it going for a month and 2 months and 6 months, and then we'll talk again.
And then we'll talk, and yes, indeed. Yes, yes. Okay, look, so you convinced me. I'm a company that wants to implement Lean. What do I need to do?
Well, first of all, you've got to ask yourself, why do you want to implement Lean?
Why do I want to?
The issue is, this is not for anybody. This is for somebody that needs it. The issue is, why? What's your motive for wanting to get into this stuff?
So the improvement need would come from the inside of the organization.
Indeed.
It wouldn't be emphasized or highlighted by the external consultant or the...
Not in my view, because if you're doing this just because somebody else is doing it, or you're doing it because you think it's a good idea, well, I'm not sure that your heart will be in it. If you're doing it because you really need to do it, and Harley Davidson was one beautiful example of that, their backs were to the wall. They were going bankrupt. They had no other way. They grabbed it with both hands, and they used it. And everybody in the world can see what they did with it, ultimately.
So this Lean is not an all-cure medicine. It's not applicable to any company, any time, and just curing all the things that could be cured. It is maybe better or not for companies facing difficulties, or how do you view this?
Paul, the issue is competitiveness in an industry which is becoming more and more intense from a competitiveness point of view. Any company wanting to operate and survive in a highly competitive environment will need to improve in dimensions that the customer values. When the customer calls for something, that customer deserves the service that they are calling for, deserves the products that they are calling for. And all of this stuff addresses that particular issue, helps the company to become better in terms of throughput, production throughput, better in terms of quality, process quality and product quality, better in terms of pricing, because the costs are kept under control, waste is eliminated. These are the important issues that ultimately become the value that we seek to add to the raw materials that we buy and the products that we produce.
So I take it this is a strategic decision which is going to help the growth of the company. It's part of the development phase, and then you convinced me.
You know, it's a strategic thing, but it's an operational thing as well. It's not something that senior people in the organization decide and they do it on their own. You've got to take everybody in the company along with you. You've got to convince people that this is the right way of doing things. This is the way to operate properly so that ultimately the customer is the beneficiary.
Okay, and it's better and faster and more effective.
Certainly. And one more word, always.
Always.
Not just sometimes.
All the time.
Always, always.
Because we've had during the summit that discussion about just in time or just in case. Okay, so you convinced me. What do I start with if I want to implement Lean?
You know, you read and you establish a good base of knowledge to begin with. You interact with other people that have gone along this route. The Lean Quality Academy comprises of people that have gone down this route. And it's important to interact. Go and see them. Not just the ones that have done very well, some of the ones that have done not so well, so that you learn from them as well.
Yes.
These are the things that you need to do. The best approach would be to get in touch with people who can put you in touch with the right organization right here in Romania. You might need to travel to other European countries and see some of the things that they're doing as well. You have to become convinced yourself that this is the route to go. And when you're convinced, that's the time to approach people who can assist you progressively, come in, do an assessment of the as-is situation, and work with you to establish clearly the to-be status, and then work out a way of getting there.
Very well. And what will that company get out of that whole implementation? What will be the outputs in terms of process approach?
The outputs are always in terms of improvements in dimensions that your customers value. So it is establishing very clearly what the customer requires, dimensioning exactly that in measurable terms, and then determining from an operational point of view how are we going to be able to achieve those improvements in the dimensions that the customers value.
So I see a very strong focus on the customer.
Certainly.
With
Certainly.
this approach.
Certainly.
Everything is done with the view to the customer,
Absolutely.
always to the need, to the specification of the customer, listening to his voice.
Totally.
So the voice of the customer should be, actually the voice of the process should deliver to the voice of the customer.
Indeed.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay. What if I don't do lean?
But you don't absolutely have to do lean to achieve improvements. There are other ways of doing things.
Yes.
These are tried and tested means. These are logical means. These ones will certainly help. But as I said to you earlier on in the conversation, over the years I've seen people do a number of different things to improve their businesses. And you can choose another route. I personally favor this route, having come through this over many, many years. It is a technique, it is a set of techniques that people can easily work with, can easily understand. The simplicity of it makes it desirable and conducive to people that are motivated, want to work, want to succeed with a company.
So I take it that lean implementation is very beneficial to the company itself, to the customer ultimately, maybe primarily. Is there a right moment to start? Because sooner or later, in a discussion, the next issue that's going to be brought about it will be, okay, I want to start, but when? When is the right time to start?
You really have to say to yourself, what are the competitors doing? Because if they're already moving in this direction and you need to catch up, there's an issue there in itself. And trying to catch up and trying to implement these things just adds to the burden that you already have. So you've got to say to yourself, how competitive am I, and are those competitors of mine getting better and better? Because if you don't get better, believe me, your competitors will.
Will.
Oh yes. Oh yes, they will.
You know, when I am being asked this question, I would answer with my question, haven't you already started?
Yes. Yes. In other words, it's possible that you're already too late. Correct. It's not a race. It is, let's think of things this way. You need to think big.
Yes.
Don't think small. You need to think very big, look to the future, envisage where your business will be. But you can't do everything at once. So you need to start small. Start small in an area in your business where you and your people can learn to come to terms with all of this new stuff. But when you do start small, you don't do it superficially. You go deep and you do it properly. And so whatever gets done is done and sustained. So I repeat, think big, start small, go deep.
Think big, start small, go deep. Now that is very interesting and very important approach that I try to keep in my intervention as well. Now if we just go a bit more into more detail in this implementation issue. So what do you start with, who does what, and the next question which might come up on the way, when am I going to harvest the grapes?
Okay. A number of questions in that, and I will attempt to address them in the order in which you put them. First of all, let's understand one thing. The foundation is orderliness.
Yes.
Orderliness in the company, orderliness in the workplace.
Certainly.
And there are certain things that we do and instill in the minds of people in order to be sure that we achieve this orderliness. We don't try any techniques before this is established and the foundation is set very well. So that's where we almost always start.
Yes. You mean?
You've heard of these things, the 5S's, yes indeed, the 5S's, and make sure that that works and is sustained. Then, looking further to the future and looking further to continue beyond that, you have to determine, as we said, what is it that the customer values. So where would we begin to set matters right in terms of the techniques that we will use that will achieve for the customer early benefits. How soon, you ask, will you pick the grapes? How soon will the customer pick the grapes? Because it is to that you need to pay your attention. What does my customer really value? And so now we can determine exactly which of these techniques we will first use in order. It's amazing, you can achieve improvements that the customer will perceive very, very quickly, provided the foundation exists, that orderliness. If you have not got orderliness in the operations, none of these techniques will succeed. And then how long will you take to harvest the grapes is not an issue. You haven't planted the grapes yet.
Yes. So I take it that orderliness is the solid needed foundation for any improvement perspective. You mentioned value for the customer, and sometimes this is quite difficult to identify. How are you looking at value for customer? What is value for customer?
It's different for each customer, and you cannot sit and determine the value. The customer has to tell you the value.
Yes.
So we clearly have to interact with the customer and find out from them what the dimensions of value happen to be. And there are a number of ways in which you can do. I've suggested to the people on the summit there are a number of issues that they need to go and measure with the customer to find these things out.
I remember we had a debate then coming all the way back to that pull principle, pull versus push. So actually this is a pull issue. Again, you pull the value concept description from the customer.
Now in that sense I agree with you. Pull has a different connotation, but yes, in that sense I agree with you. The value, the good point of this is now the customer sees, hey, this supplier is going to improve for my benefit.
Yes.
So already you're getting a benefit out of that. They see and they have an expectation, and it will follow through with all of the improvements that you.
Yes, and he's also doing a great job with on the supply side. Developing the supplies and getting his resources assured just in time. Yes.
Certainly.
That's a big argument.
That is at the heart of working with the suppliers on the upstream side of things. Collaborative work with the suppliers in order that the customers benefit in the end.
That's very interesting and also very, very practical, all time, very, very to the point and down to earth with all these approaches. Now, there's another point that always come up in a project, in implementation of Lean. What's this going to cost in terms of efforts, time, people, material, or any other type of resource? What's this going to cost?
Without being facetious, one could say, well, what's it going to cost if you don't do it? Here is not being competitive in a marketplace going to save you any money, or is it going to lose you some money? You really need to assess what it is that you will gain out of being more competitive than your competitors in certain dimensions that the customers value. Look at it from that point of view. Most people try to establish the cost of training people, doing all of these things, etc. When in fact they put a blinker to the value that it is going to generate. We deal with issues here that are difficult to quantify.
Yes, sometimes
We deal with issues that are difficult to quantify. Sitting here, I could say the only way in which I would be able to answer such a question is if I were to go and assess a given company, a situation, and provide the answer for that situation. It's too much of a question of how long is a piece of string.
Yes.
You cannot answer exactly like this. It depends on the case in point.
Yes.
And the benefits that any customer, any client will have vary depending on how efficient they happen to be in the first place. As we mentioned earlier on, efficiency is not only dependent on lean, there are other ways in which efficiencies can be achieved.
Yes.
It's just that lean provides it in such a more systematized way, and a way in which people can understand and grasp and contribute towards.
So it is definitely depending on the dedication, on the seriousness, and on the very rigorous planning.
Yes.
All the
Yes.
actions and the way methods are applied and how people are trained and then put to apply the techniques and the knowledge that they
and
are
motivated. The
you know,
point,
yes.
yes, and motivated. Because
motivated.
when they see that they are able to contribute to this, which is a very, very important and integral part of this,
Yes.
they themselves become motivated out of the contribution that they make.
I have seen them in trainings or on the shop floor with the people, very, very eager to celebrate immediate small successes, and I all the time recommend to the company management, celebrate and thank these teams, make them part of the benefit, and make them understand that this is the journey, it's never-ending journey, and it's not the best way, it's the single way.
It's the way.
Actually, that's the way.
Yes, a good way.
Well, thank you, Luke. Thank you very much. Very nice talking to you. Maybe you'd like to have one more comment for our audience in Romania, some of them being to the summit with us, participants from different multinational companies, but not only maybe future participants to our events or actions together. So what would you tell?
Well, I look with anticipation at the efforts that will flow out of this summit with some of your clients. I would look with anticipation to be able to read about the improvements that come about as a result of this in years to come. For other clients that perhaps were not at the summit, I urge you to think very clearly on how competitive your company is, and think very clearly on your customers. Are you delighting your customers? Does your customer think of you as a preferred company to do business with? Those are dimensions that are going to be very, very important in years to come.
Yes.
Think deeply on these matters and make your decision. Thank you very much, Paul.
Thank you.